Kip, welcome to Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee.
I am so honored to be here.
I am so honored to have you here. This has been a long time coming.
Yes, we scheduled this a while ago.
We did. We did. So we start every podcast episode with this very open-ended, you get to take this wherever you want to question. And it is what is lighting up your world right now? What is driving your passion?
Well, right now, I'm actually on probably what is the beginning of a big push
Okay.
to try to ban Big Pharma from advertising everywhere.
Yes.
I don't think if you watch any amount of television, if you look at any websites with any regularity, what do you see but pharmaceutical companies who are taking up a lot of commercial time and a lot of ad space, and I think it's creating a drug dependent nation, which concerns me greatly. From, oh my gosh, I'll have to pull up the stats. Even like as young as like 1 to 5-year-olds
Yes.
are being put on psychotropic medications, and I think that's ridiculous.
Can you, for those of us who might not know exactly what psychotropic means, go a little bit deeper into what that means?
Yes. So psychotropic medications are medications that are usually described often by like a PCP, a GP, or a psychiatrist for mental health issues. So things like anxiety, depression, ADHD, PTSD, and all the other made up mental health disorders like seasonal affective disorder, which is not a thing, but we'll create it, we'll market it as a thing, and then slap Paxil, to that disorder and dispense a lot of medication, make a lot of money. So it's those types of medications.
Yeah. And for 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5-year-olds.
Yeah, I just looked this up because I remember seeing it. So God, this is just flipping insane. So these are actual statistics. They're sourced statistics. I can give you the reference for your viewers. So 1 to 3-year-olds, 7,811 prescriptions for that age group.
Holy cow.
For 2 to 3-year-olds, 12,137 prescriptions. 4 and 5-year-olds, 8,911 prescriptions. It goes on up to where 6 to 12-year-olds, we got 500,000, 6 to 12-year-olds on psychotropic meds. 13 to 17-year-olds, it gets close to almost 2 million.
Wow.
65 and older, over 10 million, almost 11 million people on psychotropic medications. People in our age group, even more. So 45 to 64-year-olds, 15,611,175 people.
This is mind-blowing to me.
Psychotropic medications. And I'm like, we're medicating normal, which is creating a dysfunction or destruction. So it's having the exact opposite effect. So we are the nation with dispensing the highest amount of these psychotropic medications, and yet we're still the sickest country in the nation when it comes to mental health issues, when it comes to even things like obesity. So it doesn't make sense, but this is what Big Pharma wants. It wants a nation that is drug dependent,
so that they can pad their pockets.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And they're investors, right? They answer to the investors. Pfizer is the biggest drug company in the world.
Wow. Okay, so you used a phrase that I would love to hear more about, medicating normal.
Yes,
Please, please.
please
That
do
struck my
share.
earbuds and I wrote it right down.
Well, I think here's what I see a lot. So I work with anywhere from a 9-year-old athlete on up to these like 64-year-old executives.
Yeah.
So many times I have, it doesn't matter what the age range is, they come into my office, they've been on one medication in an attempt to fix anxiety, depression, ADD, PTSD, social anxiety, which again is not a thing, but it's been marketed as a disease or disorder when it's not. But social anxiety is a big one I see. And so the attempt is to medicate something that's actually normal. It's normal to feel anxiety when you go into a new situation. It's normal to feel anxiety when you don't know what the outcome is going to be, when you try something new for the first time, when you walk into a room full of people who you don't know and you're more introverted than extroverted.
Yes.
That's normal. And you don't need a medication to fix it because there isn't one.
Because
So
you're not broken.
you're not broken, but a doctor who asks a few questions will then prescribe a medication that starts messing with your neuroactivity. Well, that one doesn't work, so let's try another one. Well, we started having side effects, so let's try another one. Oh yeah, still side effects, let's try another one. And so I have people that come in here and they've been on 3, 4, 5 different psychotropic medications. So in other words, their brain is so because of the medication, not because of the initial issue. And so that's where I have a big struggle with what the medical community is doing, because you cannot medicate what is normal. It's not going to fix it. And parents have stopped critically thinking about that. And so that's,
Yes.
kind of a long-winded story of what I mean by that.
I remember back when my dad died in 2014, I had just a normal checkup with my family practitioner, probably about 4 weeks after he died. And my dad he was my best friend. He was my business consultant. I was his princess. I was always a daddy's little girl.
Oh my gosh,
my
very
whole life.
similar to my dad and I.
Yeah, it's just right. That relationship is super close.
Yeah.
So when he died, it rocked my world. And I was with him when he took his last breath. So, those memories that stay with you, especially right after they die, of them. My dad died of heart disease. So literally watching him suffocate. And
yes. Yeah.
And so I walked into my doctor's office. She read through my blood work. And then she asked me, well, how are you doing? And I burst out in tears. And my husband was with me and he put his arm around me and he said, her dad just passed away. Yeah. And her immediate response was, I will give you something for that.
No, my gosh. See, you have a drug dealer, not a doctor.
Yes. And I, not knowing any better at that time, certainly was not the person I am now. Zoloft. She gave me Zoloft.
Sure.
And to help me through, is what she said. And I remember taking it. I took it for 2 days. And on the third day, I know you're getting ready. You're getting ready. Hold it up, man. Hold it up. I'm almost there. On the third day, my husband had planned to take me out for dinner. And he was getting dressed. And I was just sitting on the floor of our bedroom, watching him get dressed, completely feelingless. I had no emotion. I had no sadness. I had no joy. I didn't have anything. And he looked over at me and he said, we need to get dressed. We're going to be late. We have a reservation. And I kind of fell sideways onto the dog bed and curled up in a fetal position and just looked up and I said, I don't want to go. And I remember him reaching down and picking me up like I was a rag doll, standing me on my feet and helping me get dressed. He did my hair, he did my makeup, and he led me into this restaurant where I just sat there like a stone. And he reached across and he took my hand and he said, you will never take that medication again. And I stopped taking it. It took a few days. My emotions started to come back. The sadness hit me all over
Good.
again. And my
Yeah.
realization was, my
Yeah.
dad died. It is okay to cry.
It is normal.
It's normal.
Normal, right?
Normal.
That's what I mean. That's a great example. And I think that's what, if you actually look at the diagnostic criteria for even grief, depression, anxiety, PTSD, they all are largely the same struggle. So it's a normal, well, let's call them normal growth pains when we go through those things. Like I just lost my dad last August too. So it's difficult. It's okay to cry. Sometimes there's anger, right? All those things, those are normal, and you got to walk through it. And think about it with young people. Puberty is awkward for all of us.
Yeah.
You lose a pet, you lose a loved one, you get challenged by a coach, you get challenged by a teacher, you got home responsibility, school responsibility, sport responsibility, work responsibility. Yeah, sometimes it gets overwhelming because it all seems to happen at one time. There is not a medication on this planet that changes the way you think and believe about it. And that's usually the main culprit to most struggles. So as parents and as adults to our children, or even to our spouses, right? We got to role model the way of walking through these things, not shoving a pill in our mouth.
Yes. Yes. And, I remember my mother at the time saying, my husband was talking to her about it, and she said, but why was it wrong for her to cry when the doctor asked how she was? She was grieving. Why is that? Why was that wrong? And it's just really got me thinking.
Did you feel that way in the doctor's office? Did you think?
No.
That?
All I remember thinking is, if it will help it not hurt so bad.
Okay. Yeah.
If it will help it not hurt so bad. Now I realize it was okay for it to hurt so bad.
Absolutely.
It was supposed to hurt that bad.
Right.
It still does sometimes, for heaven's sake.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you look at a picture or there's a life event that happens and you recognize, your dad's not there.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt. But I think what you experienced is what scares me the most. So if doctors are not asking about like your support system, your relationships, your faith or spiritual tools, your nutrition, your sleep, your hydration, your fitness, if they don't ask about all of that and their first like go-to thing is a medication, then yes, you have a drug dealer, not a doctor.
This is so important, Kip, because had I known that then, I was in that office with my husband, who immediately embraced me and let me sob into him.
Exactly what he should do.
Exactly.
He doesn't have to say anything or fix it. He just needs to let you walk through the emotion, because it's normal to feel when you lose a loved one, especially the way you described your father.
Yeah.
Yes.
But not to be asked those questions, and how important for our listeners to understand. There's so many other questions that precipitate any prescription that are not being asked.
Yes. I mentioned some of the big things, but it's like, tell me about your fitness routines. What do you do? Are you walking every day? I would be asking that. Are you moving? Because like I know if I go day 3 without having worked out, man, I'm irritable, I'm edgy, I'm like, watch out. But yes, nutrition is a big piece, and a lot of people don't realize this. I see this. This is probably close to the top, if not the top culprit that I see, especially among young people with anxiety, depression, ADD, is their diet is largely fast food, processed food, artificial coloring, sugary drinks, energy drinks, all that crap There's no way that the brain is functioning the way it's supposed to. And then they don't get enough water. Like at a minimum, 2 liters a day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm going to be asking all these things. How's your sleep? You know, we need 7 to 10 hours, depending on our age, our growth spurts, which we're not doing anymore. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like we are absent of asking these what I think are critical normal questions. Yeah. And we're just turning to a pharmaceutical drug. So back to the reason why I want to ban it from being advertised so much is because that marketing is working. People think they need a drug for everything.
Everything.
I mean, I know we're talking about like more of psychological or mental health things here, but it's almost nauseating how many commercials I see for pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
And we did it against big tobacco. We shut that down late 60s and 70s because of how harmful it was to people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see the same thing happen here. Shut it down.
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical companies do good work and provide a service.
Yes.
But we don't need it to be advertised like it is.
No.
At all.
No. It is to the point where if we're watching a movie that isn't commercial free, like on Hulu, where I don't pay for the upgraded version,
yeah, right?
And you have those commercials. We are flipping onto another station or turning it off or walking out of the room because we're so tired, or we'll sit there and laugh as they start, not laugh in a funny way, but kind of poke fun, maybe, I don't know what the right words are, at the list of side effects and wondering,
right,
why would you ingest something that has this list of horrible side effects?
Well, so now you're getting into something that's so dark that most people have no idea, which is the research being done on those types of medications. And it would absolutely, if the general American public knew how the research and development and FDA approval of these drugs was made, they'd be appalled. Absolutely appalled. It is such an incestuous money racket. I just highly encourage people, especially of young people on psychotropic drugs, do everything you can to change lifestyle and get off those drugs. It's so damaging.
What are some long-term effects, Kip, of a child or teenager who is on these? What are some long-term effects that happen?
Well, you potentially are changing your normal neural activity, because here's the deal, not even the drug companies, if you look at the little small piece of paper that you get with each one of those drugs, like I encourage people, open it up, read it. They can't tell you how it actually works. They don't even know if it actually works. But what we do know is it's going to go target some area of your brain activity. But the research, most of the research is now done by the pharmaceutical companies. And so they don't release all of their research. They release the good stuff. They typically pay a psychiatrist 5 figures to put his or her name on it. They get it printed in a journal, reputable journal that we would think. And then the drug companies turn around and buy these articles from the journal companies to then give to like pediatricians and GPs and PCPs to prove that it's actually a drug that works. When I would say from largely most of them, they don't know. They don't know. All they need, I believe, from the FDA is like 2 viable what is it? 2 viable outcomes that show that they work. Well, what about the 890 that didn't? But what they show the FDA are the 2 that did work.
That's a
And
really
then-
bad percentage, 2 out of.
Oh, it's awful. But it's very typical. And then, but the scary thing is just how the money going back and forth,
Mhm.
right? The psychiatrists are getting paid. The journals, like the Lancet, like I think it's 41% of their money is coming from the companies that are buying these articles. So they rely on that.
Yeah.
Well, then the pharmaceutical companies rely on these prestigious journals to go then sell their pharmaceutical so that they dispense it more. It's just a sick
Wow.
situation.
Yeah.
And the American people really are paying the price for it.
And you can see it.
Oh, sure. I mean,
You can see it.
and this is where, again, I encourage you got to ask questions of your MD. If your MD, like you experienced, went right to the medication, then your appointment's over.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else. Because it's so easy to market and sell to the MDs. So, because they have so easily convinced doctors that these drugs are safe. When actually, I think largely, if getting hands on the actual research, it would indicate otherwise.
It is dark.
It's very dark. Which I can send you some links to
Yes.
information, so that you can put that with this podcast. Because
Yeah.
I think it really is beneficial for people. Like, I encourage them, go do your own research.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think by and large, we have forgotten how to do that. We have forgotten how to be our own advocates. We have forgotten how to research for ourselves. We have forgotten that we have brains and we are allowed to use them.
Correct. And it's important you use your brain.
Yes.
And it's important you take care of your brain. Because I think I really agree with Dr. Daniel Amen in his book, The End of Mental Illness. He and I 100%, this is a psychiatrist by trade. He largely believes it isn't mental illness, it's brain health issues. Like, we're destroying brain health with our lifestyle, with those things that I mentioned. Yeah.
Yes. And I've had the amazing privilege to hear him speak quite a few times. I even have a picture of me and Dr. Amen together.
Oh, nice. Jealous.
He is fabulous. And I will put a link to that book in the show notes too. And definitely I'm ordering it for myself. It's one I don't have.
Every parent should just read it for their knowledge,
Yes. Oh, this is such an amazing podcast, and we're going to have to reconvene because there's so much more. There's so much more.
Yeah, for sure.
Kip, this has been amazing, and we can't say it enough. Be your own advocate. Be your own advocate.
Yes.
Be your own advocate.
Yes. Absolutely. Especially when it comes to when you go in and talk to your doctor, ask questions and don't just immediately trust what they're telling you.
Yes. I'll give one more, for example, story. My husband went through some major health issues this past January, and he was, after a procedure, immediately prescribed 3 medications that he was told he would be on for the rest of his life. And we came home and started reading all of those little papers, and we both looked at each other, and my husband looked at me and he said, "I'm not taking any of these. I'm not taking them."
Good.
And he called his doctor, not the doctor who did the procedure, who told him he had to have all these. He called his doctor, his cardiologist, and he said, "What if I change my lifestyle?" And he said, "That is always preferable. You prove to me that you can do it. You don't have to take a thing." And he changed.
Why didn't the doctor say that at
everything?
first?
Well, it was a different doctor. It was the procedure. It was the doctor who did the procedure who gave him all these prescriptions.
Oh, okay.
When he
Okay.
called his own
Yeah.
cardiologist, he said, you don't need them. If you will change your lifestyle, you don't need any of these.
So, see, exactly.
And
Exactly.
he's been extremely encouraging and has recently been told you don't even need a cardiologist anymore. That's the difference that the lifestyle made. I know.
That's awesome.
I know. Changing how we move, changing the amount of water, changing the foods we eat made
It's
all
so
the difference.
simple, and people
It is
think it's
simple.
hard.
Yes.
Only as hard as you make it.
Yes. It was seamless. It was a seamless change.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it changed everything.
Yeah.
Without drugs.
Excellent. Another great example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm full of them today, Kip.
Well, I mean, but do you see how common it is? Like if we
Yes.
stop and think about it, probably every single person listening has a story like that.
Yes. Yes, I'm sure. Because he's not the only one that is prescribed all these things. And
Well, I think we have a healthcare mental health care complex, or a healthcare complex where we want the quick fix.
yes.
Right. So the pill or the potion or the device that's supposed to make us healthier. Big Pharma understands that complex,
Yes.
and they're very skilled at marketing to that.
Yes. Too skilled.
Yeah.
Too skilled. Isn't
Yeah.
there a pill for that? No, but you know what? We
Yeah.
have a big cup of water for you.
I got mine too.
And we're both Yeti people. Shout out to Yeti if you're watching.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, Kip, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. And
My pleasure. My pleasure. I
we
hope
would
it
like,
helps some people.
oh my gosh. Well, it helped me. So I know our listeners I know they're going back, listening, taking notes, writing things down. So check out the links. We're going to put links to articles, this book, how to
Mhm.
find Kip. We're going to put all those links too, but real quickly, how can they find you?
Probably the easiest place is on my Instagram feed, which is at KipFit, KIPFIT. My website's pretty easy too, braincodecorp.com.
Okay. And we will link those for sure. All right. 2 more questions. Your version of your Pow Pow shoes.
My version of the Pow Pow shoes.
Yeah. You can answer that however you like. It can be shoes. It could be a superpower.
Well, I think I always go back to a superpower every single human has, which is choice. You have a choice.
Yes.
You have a choice in the way you feel. You have a choice in what you believe. And you have a choice in your actions. And so choose appropriately, no matter what your circumstances.
Yes. Life is short. Choose wisely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And would you leave us with a journal prompt, please?
I think a journal prompt, given what we have talked about here, is I would just encourage people, like, if you've made an appointment with a doctor of any kind, it doesn't matter what it's for, like, make a list of questions, like journal some questions ahead of time.
Love it.
That you want to ask. And then I would make darn sure that the doctor is going to ask you about your lifestyle habits first before prescribing a medication. And if they don't, then they're part of the Big Pharma drug cartel, and you need to find a different doctor.
Yes. And there are good ones out there.
There are good ones who focus on lifestyle first.
This is so good. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I can't wait for the next episode with Kip Rodgers.
Thank you.
Thank you.